Okay.
Okay, hi everyone who is watching right now. We're going to get started in a few minutes. If you're watching the recorded version of this, you might want to skip ahead maybe 3 minutes or so. But otherwise, we're just standing by and we'll be with you very shortly. Just a reminder, if anyone wants to join the Zoom meeting, the details are in the description. I've just minimized the window for now, but we'll be back with the Zoom meeting. It's still going, so you can join that anytime you like. Okay, I think we're just about ready to go. I think we are. Hi everyone, welcome along. First thing, I see there's a few people in the Zoom, so I'm going to bring in the Zoom window on this bit over here. So you're about to come live if you're in the Zoom meeting, just a quick heads up. So there you go. We've got, someone's dropped out, but never mind. We've got a couple of people in there. Hi, welcome along. Thank you very much for joining the Zoom meeting. If you want to participate in the Zoom meeting, if you want to join in, just make sure you unmute your microphone and just start talking. That's pretty much all there is to it. So let me just stop that background music. We'll turn the audio up for the Zoom, so that's ready to go anytime. Okay, thank you for joining us tonight. You might have seen in the description I said that I don't really have much in the way of news tonight. That's because I've been so busy this week, I just haven't had time. But there are a few things to talk about, some news that's just come through today. So we'll get onto that very soon. One thing I do want to do tonight is I want to talk again about the... I'm just letting someone into the Zoom meeting. I want to talk about our live feeds project, the thing back there that we talked about last week. The good news is that we have something that you can try pretty much any time. We'll talk about that later. So if you're ready to give that a go, stay tuned. Hi, Casey. Thanks for joining on your mobile. You're at sea again. Gee, we're not timing it very well for you, are you? But thanks for watching on your mobile. And g'day, Tristan and team. James, thank you very much. You are in the house. Good to see you guys here. Okay, so I'm just looking at the Zoom meeting. We've got Blake has joined as well. We're not seeing your video yet, Blake, but you don't have to. But if you want to, just turn your camera on and your sound. I think... let's see, just while we wait for a minute to see if anyone else is going to join us. G'day, Blake. We can see you now. Thanks for joining, Blake. You heard just pitch in any time you want to. Anyway, so I've got to remember that there's a pass of the International Space Station going over New Zealand during the show tonight. I've set my alarm, so we may want to run outside and have a quick look at it. If not, we should be able to see it on our live feeds. So that's not till 7:37. So it's actually, the space station's actually over Europe at the moment, so it's still a little way away. We'll get back to that, but I've got my alarm so we don't forget. One quick thing I wanted to show off before we started. You remember you guys actually told me about the Lego Discovery, the shuttle. So thank you so much for telling me about that. Look what I've got. It's right here. Look at this. What a monster. It's brand new in the box. I haven't even unboxed it yet. It's just sitting there waiting to go.
That's awesome.
It is, isn't it?
Been eyeing that up.
Do you think you're going to get it, Blake?
I doubt it.
Yeah, it was $312. $312. Eye-watering. It's an absolute shocker. But, you know, because of the Lego display that we've got here, and it's all about, obviously, space stuff, and we want to have all the good Lego kits, the sets out with our display, so I didn't really have much choice. So that was the good news. I got hold of that. At the same time, I noticed that the Lego VIP Club that you can sign up for on their website was giving an exclusive offer for this thing here. It's the Ulysses Spacecraft, and this is a limited edition, only available for Lego users. Looks really fantastic, and I thought, oh my goodness, I must get my hands on that thing. So it was only available for a short time for VIP users, wasn't publicly advertised or anything. So I went into the Lego website at the right time, was already reloading the page, but I couldn't get it. It couldn't make it work. And I went back a little while later and tried again, and it had come up, but it had sold out. I was just gutted, absolutely gutted about it. So I thought, I left it for about a day, and then I thought, oh, I'll go on eBay and see. No doubt some people have bought them. Now, Blake, I think you talked about this before, when we were talking about whether you wait until after it's been sold and you go in and you buy it on Trade Me or something. It might not have been you, Blake. Sorry if it wasn't. But anyway, I went onto eBay and had a look to see, and yes, certainly there are a few people selling them. Look at some of these prices, starting at what, $300, $379, $279. Look at this. This character here is trying to sell it for $1,000. Oh my goodness. So anyway, not too happy about that. I looked into it a little bit further, and I found out that the whole thing had been a complete debacle, and Lego has had to issue a public apology to all the people who couldn't get one. So yeah, that was a real bummer. But anyway, if anyone has got one of them and would like to sell it for less than $1,000, let me know. Now, with that Lego, I'm toying with the idea, because it's the school holidays, of actually doing a public build of it and letting people come in and help me. I'm not sure if I could make that work or not, but I'm thinking about it. Okay. Right. G'day, Ashley, or whoever it is in your household that's joined in. I think that's Ashley's account, isn't it? Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. So anyway, that was that. I think we should probably just get on and talk about what news I've got to talk about. So I'm hoping that if you guys have got some news, you will pitch in after I've been through the few things that I've got. I think probably the biggest thing just came through earlier today. So this is absolutely hot off the press, and this is SpaceX and NASA and Artemis. So NASA has chosen SpaceX to provide the human landing system for Artemis on the moon. So this is huge. This is really big news. So what's going on here is that NASA, obviously, they're using their own SLS rocket to get the astronauts from Earth to the Gateway, but they are contracting out the vehicle to get from the Gateway orbiting the moon onto the surface of the moon and back again. And there were a few companies that were in the running for this. And we kind of expected that maybe at least a couple of them would make the next cut. But no, it's been announced that only SpaceX has got that contract. So they're going to be using, as I understand it, the Starship, which keeps exploding, to get people from the Gateway onto the moon and back again. So that's optimistic. But the competition was Blue Origin. Now, we talked about that a couple of years ago, didn't we? This was their Blue Moon project. So this is Jeff Bezos a couple of years ago. And this was their pitch for a vehicle to get onto the moon and back again. And there was another company called Dynetics that I don't really know much about. But anyway, they've both been pushed out, and it looks like it's all down to SpaceX. So they've got a bit of time to get it ready. Elon tweeted out, he was very happy about it. Obviously, he tweeted just the announcement, and they're very honored to be part of it and everything. So now my understanding was that the decision in the end was largely about money. That we talked about the budget last week. I didn't really look at it closely enough, probably, but it looks like the human landing system, this part of the project, didn't get much money, and there wasn't enough funding to fund more than one option to do this. And SpaceX was the cheapest, apparently by far. So they've got the contract. So it's quite a hard case, really, when you think about it, that they've got the Starship that's just taking them from the orbit of the moon down onto the surface and back. The astronauts are going all the way there in their own rocket in a much smaller capsule, and then it'll be the Starship, and a much bigger, roomier spaceship gets them down onto the moon and back. It kind of seems like a double up, doesn't it, really? It almost seems silly that the Starship's going all the way there, but the astronauts are going in a different vehicle. If anyone's got any comments about that or more insight, let me know. Now, Tristan's telling us Raptor engines have arrived for SN15 being installed and expecting static fire early this week. Elon said, expecting to fly this week. Thank you, Tristan. I think I'm going to get into the habit of coming onto this stream to get the news instead of trying to give it. This works really well. I love it. Thanks for that. So hopefully next week we'll have an update on what's happening with SpaceX. So keep an eye on their website. So yeah, that was the big news. The SpaceX has got the contract for the human landing system. Fantastic. What else has been happening? With the International Space Station, the Soyuz MS-17 crew has come back to Earth. So what does that leave us with up there? Is this picture still relevant? Let's have a look at it. So this was, so this, the crew on the left is the one that is a part of the crew that's up there now. So they have replaced the one that has recently come back down. The crew on the right is expecting to launch on April the 22nd. So another big launch for SpaceX, getting the next crew up to the space station. So there are now 7 astronauts on the International Space Station, and that is now the normal crew complement up there, of course. So very cool. Right, let's go through a few other things that I quickly wanted to tell you about. The next one was just a very short video, compliments of Dad. Thanks, Dad, who's in the Zoom meeting there, who told me to go and have a look at this short video. The links, of course, for all of these are in the description. This is just a few minutes long, this video on the BBC, and it's quite a neat little interview with the lady who was a 5-year-old girl when Yuri Gagarin landed in her field while she was out planting potatoes. It's well worth going and having a look at that as she talks about her reaction to be out there planting the potatoes in rural Russia. And hello, a spaceman lands in her field. So that was pretty cool. What was the next one? The EmDrive. We talked about this a few times recently. Remember, there was a few studies that had come out and said the EmDrive, this sort of quite controversial new type of engine that no one really knows if it's going to work or not. It seems to break the laws of physics, but it did seem to pass some experiments. But recently, there have been a few tests that showed that it did not provide any thrust and it doesn't work. Well, the guy who invented it says it does, and they just got it wrong. So we'll see what happens. I'm of the opinion that we probably won't really know for sure until someone actually tests it in space. I really hope someone does. But anyway, if you want to catch up on the latest, go and read that article. What was the next one? Or the helicopter. Now, this story is about 5 days old, and I'm afraid I have not got any updates. If anyone has heard anything new since then, please let me know. But the last I've heard that it is that they have put it off a little bit longer. Now, just a quote here from the team. They have concluded that minor modification and reinstallation of Ingenuity's flight control software is the most robust path forward. So they're probably not very happy about having to completely reinstall their flight software, but hopefully it won't be too bad. I mean, they do that sort of thing often, so yeah, hopefully they'll be all right. As I say, if anyone's got any more updates on that, let me know. I haven't heard anything else from the team in the last 5 days or so. That was all I had on the Ingenuity. What am I saying about Blue Origin here? Oh, right. Blue Origin had a launch. Yes, we definitely want to talk about that. So this is Blue Origin's New Shepard, the suborbital spacecraft. And I have got a little video here that we should go and have a look at. Now, this actually goes for a few minutes, this video. Let's just get that underway. So with this test, what they did was they actually had a crew basically get on the spacecraft and get everything ready as if they were going to fly in it, but then the crew backed back out again and let the spacecraft just go up by itself. So they're testing basically every single thing except having the astronauts in it.
Command start. 2, 1.
And we have liftoff. Go, New Shepard, go. Beautiful liftoff from our launch site 1 in West Texas. You can follow along as she gains speed in the bottom left corner of your screen. There's the speedometer, altimeter in the middle there.
Okay, so I've just basically taken a few highlights of this. I've shortened the whole thing. So the whole flight is only about 10 minutes. This is suborbital. So the idea with this one is that it can take up to 6 passengers. Remember, there's no astronaut pilot here. It's only passengers. So basically you hop in it and you trust all the automated systems and you go up for about 10 minutes and you come back down again. So it's an awful lot of money to spend on a very short flight, but would be still pretty cool if you had that kind of money.
About 346,000 feet. Of course, we're going to have official stats for you after the flight via Twitter, but so far so good, Patrick. Looks to be a nominal flight of New Shepard. You see the booster on the right and the capsule on the left. This is when they've begun their descent. All right, we've picked up our long-range cameras again. There you see the booster, the bottom of the screen, and the capsule on the top. All right, there go the drag brakes. And there you see all the speed bleeding off of the vehicle and waiting for our BE-3 engine to relight. There it goes. Landing gear deployed. Oh, look at that smooth landing.
It was a very smooth landing. Beautiful. Looked very smooth, actually. It was a great landing. The capsule, of course, is still coming down. The booster comes down first, and the capsule, which would normally have the people in it, follows shortly thereafter.
I know some of you on the internet seem to think that. Believe me, that is a reusable rocket that takes off and lands. What a beautiful landing.
It looks like it's ready to go again.
Yeah, just, put in those drag brakes, put in the wedge fins, fuel her up, let's go again. But until then, the show is not over. We do have the crew capsule here. On board, we have Mannequin Skywalker, as well as a couple of payload lockers filled with postcards from Club for the Future, from students from around the world. We are waiting to see the drogue chutes come out. They will be followed by the main parachutes.
This is a beautiful capsule, I have to say. Look at the windows on it. So this is really designed as a tourist vehicle. It's that's its whole focus, really. So it's just a lovely thing to be in. But you don't get long up there, do you? So we're 8.5 minutes into the flight now, and it's just about all over.
All 3 parachutes are out. We're looking for full inflation, and there they go.
So I'm not quite sure when they are looking to fly with people in it, but it's hopefully not too far away. My understanding is that this is the last test before they have actual passengers in there, and everything went really well. The whole testing program has been going very well. So it really shouldn't be too far away before they've actually got people going in this spacecraft. Right, must be coming down towards the landing fairly soon, I would think.
About 16 or so miles per hour.
I left this a bit long, didn't I? Sorry.
25 or so kilometers per hour. That is a nice, smooth descent. There's the valley of our West Texas launch site 1, as we call it. What a day so far, Patrick, let me tell you.
Sorry, it was a rush edit here.
Now,
I should have
at
chopped this up
800
a
feet
bit
to
more.
go here, we should remind everybody that we do have the retrothrust system that kicks on just in the last moment. Basically, it just creates a nice air cushion for the capsule so that if you, next time, hopefully, when you and I are up in that capsule one day, we are going to be getting a nice air cushion underneath the capsule. And touchdown.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Absolutely spectacular. Patrick, I told you it was going to be worth the wait. Look at that.
Definitely. I love you. You can just see it just as it lands. You see that puff of air and it kicks up all that dust, but it's just such a gentle landing right there.
That is indeed beautiful. I love it. I love that capsule. I just think it's such a beautiful capsule. Fantastic. Now, not long after that, Jeff Bezos did post on Instagram and posted a picture, and he said, "It's time." That was all he said. So I think we'll take that as good news. I think what he's saying is it's time to get serious and send some people up. So let's keep an eye on that one. Hopefully it won't be too far away. So that is Blue Origin's New Shepard. I've said this a million times before, but I do worry a little bit about how viable this whole business is long term. Remember, it is just suborbital, and given what's happening with SpaceX, even what Virgin Galactic is doing, it's hard to imagine that there's going to be a huge market for such a short flight. But hopefully they will make it work. Right, just had a couple of other things that we wanted to get through here with the news. Boeing Starliner, another capsule, more in competition with SpaceX, I guess, that we've been keeping an eye on for ages. The headline says it's been further delayed due to ISS traffic jam created by SpaceX. That must hurt. Gee, that must hurt them a lot. They can't get their flight up there because SpaceX is taking up all the slots. Oh, no. Poor buggers. Yeah, anyway, so, not much more we can say about that. Links in the description if you want to go and learn more about what they are saying about that. Now, it was supposed to be scheduled for launch this month. What else did I say here? But Boeing may have to push it back to July or August due to all the docking ports being taken up by SpaceX and others. Okay, here's another story. This is another small rocket company in Norway. Oh, no, sorry, it's actually a Germany-based rocket company, and they are developing a small satellite launch vehicle capable of launching about 1 metric ton to low Earth orbit. So this is very much in the same market as Rocket Lab. So Isar, if I've got that correct, is targeting an initial launch in 2022 for this, which is called the Spectrum rocket. Now, this is located at a latitude of 69 degrees north, which is well suited for polar and sun-synchronous orbits or launches. So it's kind of similar in a way to what Rocket Lab is doing. Of course, we are located south of the equator, not as far from the equator as this one. So this one is probably more in line, I guess, with the polar orbits. But just another example of how there are a whole bunch of rocket companies wanting to get into that particular market. Now, what else did I have? Speaking of Virgin Galactic, I noticed that Richard Branson has sold off $150 million of his Virgin Galactic stock. Now, the press release was all about how it's going to go into being invested in other aspects of their business, which I interpreted that as basically meaning they are bleeding so much money from their aircraft business that they needed to take some money from Virgin Galactic to put into it. That was my interpretation of it anyway. So probably not the greatest. But anyway, so I went and had a look at my Sharesies portfolio because I've got a few shares in Virgin Galactic, of course, and they are down, what is it? Almost 17%. So as my whole portfolio, it's not looking very good. Let's not look at that anymore. So that was all of the news pieces I've had. If anyone else has got any more news or important things that I have missed out, now's the time to let me know. Also, a reminder for any of you guys in the Zoom meeting, if there's anything that you wanted to talk about or pitch in with, I'll tell you what, if anyone does, now's the time to put up your hand and let me know. Just use the raise hand feature in Zoom and we will get to you, because that worked really well last week when Carsten came in and shared a whole bunch of stuff. Blake, you want to have a talk? Remember to unmute. Yep, you unmuted yourself. How are you going, Blake?
I think you've got some stuff to talk about first, but I have some questions to ask you, kind of.
Look, that's fine. To be honest, let me just quickly go over my notes here. The main other thing that I wanted to talk about was that live feeds option, and I do want to do that. But honestly, I've actually got nothing else that's that important. So by all means, go ahead.
Awesome. My first question was, what are your thoughts on the multiverse?
On the multiverse?
Like, do you believe in this, or?
Whoops, I did that thing again. Sorry about that. I've got to remember I can't talk when I do that. So the multiverse, yeah, that is a fascinating thing, isn't it? Unfortunately, my answer is usually I don't know. When it comes to, is there such thing as a multiverse? Look, I've got a couple of images here. Some of you will have seen this graphic, which shows our general understanding of the Big Bang. So from left to right, it's starting 13.7 billion years or so ago at the Big Bang, and then goes through until the current time. So each slice of this image is a point in time. So like that bit there is now, and then this is going back millions and billions of years, etc. So that's kind of our view of how we think the Big Bang worked. But there's a possibility that that is only one part of something much bigger, and that there may be other universes out there. Really, the short answer is we just don't know. We don't really have any way of testing it. That's the problem, at least currently. So there's all of these different ideas about could there be other universes, or does the word universe just mean absolutely everything that exists? So if there was something outside of our universe, would we still count that as being part of our universe? But I think the idea of something that's outside that everything that's happened within this one, the result of the Big Bang, could there be other ones? It is possible, as far as I can see. It is possible, but until we can figure out some way of testing it, then we just don't know. Now, I understand that there are some ideas of how we could do that. It seems that it would be possible that some of these universes could actually interact with each other and at least kind of like touch each other, and that could leave an imprint on some part of our observable universe. And I can't really say any more about that. But I do know that there are some ideas, but at this stage, it's just all entirely theoretical and speculation, really. I wish I had a better answer. It's a surprisingly common question, actually, that one. Sorry, I can't do any better than that. Did you have an easier question, Blake?
Yes. What is your favorite area of astronomy to learn about? Like, is it engineering or the actual stuff in space?
I'm going to go with the stuff in space. I think I enjoy the engineering part of it. I think I'm probably not as passionate about that, and I I don't really have a solid engineering background. So, for example, if I'm following the likes of Tim Dodd or Scott Manley and others, they will often talk about stuff that's over my head. I can follow most of it, but I think probably it's more about the stuff that we were just talking about, like what's happened since the Big Bang, the cosmology, and that kind of stuff. That would probably be more of my focus, I think. But I love everything. To be fair, there's nothing about space that I think I don't like. What else?
In 100 years, where do you see human technology in terms of space travel?
In 100 years from now, that's just going to depend on so many things, isn't it? I used to think that 100 years is so far away that we would be looking at the beginnings of maybe interstellar travel, or certainly being spread around the solar system. I'm a lot less optimistic now. To be honest, I think in 100 years from now, let's assume that everything goes okay, that we get things like climate control and stuff like that climate change under control. We're not still dealing with pandemics and stuff like that, so that we've actually got the resources and the energy to be putting into it. I think 100 years from now, we certainly should have a pretty good presence on the moon and Mars. I'd be surprised if that hadn't happened in 100 years. I think that we would be, by then, maybe venturing further out. We should have established some sort of presence throughout the rest of the solar system. But I'm nowhere near as optimistic as a lot of people are. I think I'm thinking of programs like The Expanse and things like that, of humans sort of being routinely traveling around the solar system. I know it's a bit pessimistic, but to be honest, I think 100 years is not enough to be doing that. It's money. It's all about money. And we're only ever going to be putting a small part of our global resources into that. So at least on the moon and Mars, I'd certainly hope we were at least that far ahead with sort of reasonably self-sustained stuff on Mars, I think. That'd be my feeling anyway.
I think that'd be pretty sucky if we're not on those places by then, if we're putting so much money into that at the moment.
It would be deeply disappointing. Absolutely. At least I'm not going to be around to see, but that would be basically what I want is to live long enough to at least see people on Mars. And I think I've got a reasonable shot at surviving long enough to see that. And I'm hoping that you will live long enough, Blake, to see a lot more progress than that. Okay, these are good questions. Have you got anything else there, Blake?
When do you think the right time is to start sending probes to other stars? Because if we send those, like the really light ones that are light propelled, now we might have technology that can go faster than that in the future.
You are exactly right. You've hit the nail on the head, and that is a fantastic question. I mean, generally speaking, my thoughts with these things is let's just get on with stuff as soon as we can, but this is possibly an exception. What's the name of that project? The one where they're trying to send just a tiny, tiny little one. I've had a mental blank. I can't quite think of the name of that one, but I know that's what you're thinking about and talking about there, that kind of thing, an interstellar probe. To be honest, my feeling right now is I would not bother. What we're going to be sending is so small and so limited in its capabilities and so slow. I think you're absolutely right. It's just going to take too long to get there. And it's very likely that we're going to have something even in 10 or 20 years that would surpass it. I'm thinking of things like nuclear powered. I don't know if you're watching Paul. I still haven't got around to doing anything about that, sorry. But yeah, if it turns out that in 10 years we start developing things like that, I think even solar sails or laser powered sails, things like that are likely to get so much better that I'd be putting the money into researching a better way of getting them there than actually doing it at this stage. And let's be honest, it's unlikely that most of us are going to be around to see any of the real results. So we're doing it for future generations, so we might as well wait. That would be my feeling on that one. Yeah. Anything else? These are great questions.
I'm pretty sure you believe in other life forms in our solar system or in our galaxy or elsewhere. But what do you think they are likely to be? Like, do you think of them as being humanoid or like bacteria or what?
This humanoid, I think that's unlikely that there would be humanoids even in our galaxy. I wouldn't rule it out, but I think that would be a bit much of a coincidence. I think things like bacterial life, because you would expect that sort of stuff to develop first. If we're going to find something, I think it's far more likely that we would find that sort of thing, especially in our solar system. I think within our solar system, we've got a shot at finding something like that on Mars underground. Certainly in the outer solar system, the moons of the gas giant planets, I think there's a reasonable chance that we might find something. For example, I'm thinking Enceladus, somewhere like that. Let me just think. Have I got a picture of that? I should have. Oh, it's going to take me too long to find it. But yeah, some of the underground oceans, maybe under Europa or Enceladus, some of those places, I think we've got a reasonable chance there. If we're going to find life in our solar system bigger than bacterial life, I think it's going to be likely some kind of water-based life, like fish, some kind of alien fish. That's the best chance in our solar system. If we're looking further afield, this was the graphic I was thinking of actually. This is Saturn's moon Enceladus, where we think that there's an underground ocean there. So I think we've got a reasonable chance of finding some kind of life form there. Looking further afield, it's going to be a lot more difficult, but we certainly have got some options, and there are a few places that we could be looking. For example, the TRAPPIST-1 system seems to be a reasonable option to try and find some signs of life. There's a whole bunch of potential planets in that system. So in looking for life, at this stage, I think our best chance outside of our solar system is looking for biomarkers or some kind of signs of life. Now, we've got or had space-based telescopes such as the Kepler Space Telescope that are looking for these sorts of things, and they could use these methods. This is showing the transit method here, but the idea with this kind of thing is that you are trying to examine the atmosphere of distant planets, and you're looking for things that might indicate some sort of life there with the balance of various chemical elements. Of course, we can listen for the aliens. If we find a message from the aliens, that would be the surest sign of all. But that's a very passive way of doing it, I think. So anyway, are they going to be humanoids? I kind of doubt it. But there are certain things that I would expect to find in life, like eyes, for example. Eyes are a good evolutionary advantage. It makes sense if you're on a planet where there is light, then it certainly makes sense to be able to see things. There's my alarm going. Hang on a sec. Sorry. Right, we need to get over it. Okay, we'll get back to that in a sec. There's not much happening on the with the ISS views, but just to wrap this one up, there are certain things like arms, legs, eyes, ears. It's going to depend, obviously, on the environment of the planet that they were on. But I would expect them to have those kind of features, but whether it's actually humanoid, that's another thing. Less likely. Anyway, right. I'll get back to you if you've got anything else, Blake. In the meantime, let's just put you guys back on gallery view, and we need to go and have a look at what's happening with the space station because it is passing over soon. Not actually just yet, but let me just go over and have a quick look at our feeds. This shows you where it is, and unfortunately, both our video feeds along the top are not showing anything right now. You can see in the bottom left, there's the space station. It's heading down towards New Zealand, so it's not too far away. So if anyone wants to get outside and have a look to see if they can see the station going overhead, it will be coming from the northwest. and I think it's going to be a reasonable pass tonight. Now, what you're looking at there is actually part of the new system that I've got that I'm going to talk about soon. So we will get back to that in a minute. I'll just keep an eye on those feeds. Anyway, let's just quickly check in with the chat. Now, Tristan, I should have opened with this, and I have got an apology to make about the OBS thing. Let me just quickly whiz through any other comments, and I'll get back to that one. I've just noticed that some of my comments are coming in here out of order. Maybe this is why I'm having trouble each week with keeping up with everything. Anyway, sorry, I'll get back to that. The WW2 person is asking, would it be possible to go horse riding in the moon? Well, there's a lot to unpack in that question. Would it be possible to go horse riding in the moon? Well, I guess if you happen to make a large enough underground habitat that you could take a horse to, you could perhaps go horse riding in the moon. But I don't see that as being on the cards, really. I don't see that as something that's likely to happen on the moon. What I have to do is, I think I'm going to, I need to actually talk about what's happening here. So on the moon, I figured that's what you meant, the WW2 person. Well, look, in all seriousness, yes. No, it wouldn't. If you wanted to go horse riding on the moon, you would have to have a spacesuit for your horse to start off with. But other than that, there's no laws of physics that said you couldn't do it. I just think it would be rather impractical to take a horse all the way to the moon. There's not much grass on the moon, so you'd have to take a bunch of hay with you. So, not physically impossible, but probably just rather impractical. Right, so I need to talk now about the our live feeds thing there, with apologies to anyone who's not so interested in this, but this is quite a big deal for me, and I want to go over this. So last week I talked about this, about how the system that we use here to bring in live video and data feeds like the International Space Station, stuff coming in from telescopes and various other things, the system that we use here, I want to make a system that you can run at home if you want to. Now, I described last week how we do that. I suggested that if you wanted to get ahead of the game, you should download the software called OBS, and then I would work on a system that you could all download and run the same system yourself. Now, my sincerest apologies, because what's happened since then, you guys did encourage me to go ahead with it. It's still all on the cards. It's still happening. I have got good news, but I'll give you the bad news first. The system that we're using here, using the OBS Studio software, is still on the table, but unfortunately, I have shelved that way of doing things for now in favor of a different way. So, Tristan, I am so sorry that you made the effort to download OBS, especially since you're doing it the hard way on a Linux machine. Yeah, we will probably get back to that. But look, what's happened is that I did a couple of days' work on that system, and I'm doing it for here at the Space Center as well as you guys at home. And what I found was that it was actually going to be really quite difficult, or more difficult than I thought, to do what I was hoping. Still relatively easy for someone who is an advanced user, but I kind of got the impression and the feedback that people just wanted to be able to do it fairly simply on a simple older computer, and I didn't think that was really going to work with the OBS system. So while I'm still planning to do that, what I've decided to do in the meantime is to make a system that is actually web-based, so you can just do it through a browser. Now, there's a double reason for doing that. I also want to be able to run this system on older, cheaper computers here at the Space Center, so I don't have to buy a really expensive computer for every time I want to run it. So, to cut to the chase, what we've got is a system that I am going to show you, because it is actually in a very early alpha kind of stage, but it is sort of ready for you guys to go and have a look at right now if you want to. So here's what you need to do. If you're interested in this system, you just point your web browser at spacecenter.nz/monitor. Okay, and this is what you will find. There's the URL up here, Space Center. Where are we? I've got two cursors on the go here. spacecenter.nz/monitor. That will take you to this page. Now, be warned, there's not much here at this stage. It's very clunky, very early stage of development. Things aren't going to work very well on it. In fact, I've just noticed a problem. But anyway, you can come and try it out. This is really just for a desktop at the moment. You could try it on a tablet. It's not going to be much top on a mobile phone. It's really, at the moment, more for a desktop. So what we've got here is 3 screens that we can have a look at. Probably the main one that we would be interested in would be the ISS one. So you just click on that and you come here. Now, I should point out at this stage, you probably want to full screen it. It just looks much better full screen. So this is how you do it in Chrome, or just press F11. You've just got to remember to press F11 again to get out of full screen. So this is what we're seeing. We're seeing in this view, those live video feeds up there, which unfortunately aren't working at the moment, and a couple of other things. So if we just go back to the main menu, I'll show you what the other things are. The one on the far right, Space Weather, this is the one that has views of the Earth and is showing us what the Earth looks like right now. Things like temperature, what have we got? Water vapor, things like that. A couple I've got in here to do with the sun, solar weather, solar wind, that kind of stuff. So really, really basic at the moment. There's not much happening here, but you can click on any of these things to full screen it. So you can go through each of the screens there and get a closer look of it, at it. We can go back to the last one to look at, which is the spacecraft view. This is kind of like the ISS one that we were looking at before, but there's just a few other options. Lots of empty space in here. Haven't done a lot of the stuff yet, but I'm working on it. The main other one that I've got here would be the Deep Space Network. So this shows you, if you're familiar with the Deep Space Network, it's NASA's stations of radio antennas that they use to communicate with spacecraft around the solar system. So it shows you which spacecraft are sending and receiving data at the moment. So, for example, up here at the station in Madrid, we've got one of the antenna is communicating with the Juno spacecraft around Jupiter. In America, in Goldstone, they're communicating, they're downloading stuff from Voyager 1 on both, in fact, all of those ones. They are downloading stuff there. And over in Canberra, they are communicating with spacecraft from Mars at the moment. So they've got these antennas around the world communicating, pointing in different directions. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. So basically how it works is along the bottom left, you've got the main menu. Then you can flick between these main views here. You've got the ISS one and the weather over there. And on each view, as it stands at the moment, you can click on one of the windows to full screen it, or you can click these buttons down the bottom to go between them. That's where I've noticed that there's a little bit of a problem here. They're not quite doing what they're supposed to. Now, there's one last thing to tell you about this. As it's set up at the moment, you click on some of these things to full screen it, but there is also the issue of some of them you would want to interact with. Like this map is actually all over the place. On a lot of screens, it's going to be hopeless, and you would want to click on it to change things around, but that's not going to work because all clicking does is full screen it. So down the bottom here, this is just a fix that I made earlier today, and I'm still coding this. There's a button that says interact. If you click on that button, that changes the mode. So now you can click on things and actually do stuff, at least on the map. But now if you click on it, it doesn't full screen it. You have to go back and click on full screen again. So look, that's where we're at the moment with this. As I say, it's in the really, really early stages of development. What I need you guys to do is just kind of help me out. Right now, all I'm really concerned about is two things. Does this actually work? Can you get it so that it's displaying the video feeds? Are they working on your computer? Maybe if you've got a tablet or something like that. So if you go to the ISS one, is it actually working at all? Don't worry about the buttons and all of that kind of stuff if they're not really doing what they're supposed to do. There will be text that's missing and overlapping and all sorts of nasty stuff like that. Not really worried about that right now. I just want to know if the video feeds are all actually working okay. And is this something that I should continue working on? I guess the thing is that I've done almost all the work I need to do for the Space Center here now. So from here on, anything else I do on this is mostly going to be for you guys. And I'm only going to do that if there's an interest. So I need to know if people would actually use this or not. I've just thought of one other thing I quickly need to tell you about this. And that is if you click on any of the feeds, these aren't going to show it very well, but just down on the bottom right here, there's a button that says Hide CP. That means hide the control panel, just because it gives you a little bit more screen space. To get it back, you click that button again. In the future, if I keep going with this, I'll add some keyboard shortcuts so you can get rid of it completely and have a nice clean feed. I think that's all I needed to tell you about it, though. So, yeah, any suggestions, any feedback, I would be really keen on that. So I'm just thinking of a couple of issues that I wanted to mention. I already said the mobile compatibility. I'm not concerned yet about getting it working on mobile because that's just a whole other drama. I'll worry about that later if I carry on with it. I'm also looking to find more feeds, different kind of feeds from different places. That's always a bit of a drama. So if you know of any really good data, imagery feeds or anything, even just text feeds that I can manipulate and do things with, I'm always looking for that kind of stuff. You will notice that there's a few things on here that I've used in the past that I have not included. That's possibly due to permissions. So if it's a private organization that I need to get permission from, I need to do that as well. That's probably enough. I think I've been talking long enough about that. So, and our time is getting on. If anyone's got any questions about this or suggestions or anything, fire ahead while I quickly look back at our comments. Casey's saying it didn't really work out for you trying to spot the ISS from Wellington Harbour. Too much light pollution and Wellington airport traffic. That's a good point. That'll confuse things, won't it? Tristan's saying, looks awesome, Dave. What did you build it in? It's funnily enough, it's actually all just in HTML, JavaScript, CSS. So it's all just web pages. Oh, sorry. No, there is some server-side stuff. PHP. I've used PHP in there as well. That's a coding language. But as far as possible, I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. If you really want to, you can go and poke around some of the code. So I don't know if I should be showing you this. Yikes. This is a bit, for any of you computer coders out there or anyone else, this is just a web page. So you can actually go to it and you can right click anywhere and view the page source. And this is some of the code that I've got here. So feel free to have a look at that. But don't be too judgmental. It's in the very early days. And as I've mentioned before, hang on, I've just got to get rid of that full screen and close that. I am not a professional coder. I might just do that actually in case I want to do that again. Look, in the future, I will be open to getting people to help me out with the code with it. But at the moment, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. So yeah, I'm probably going to be doing more server-side stuff, but most of it is actually just client-side JavaScript. Anyway, Wendy, please repeat the website address. It is spacecenter.nz/monitor. So it's just our website /monitor. So yeah, I don't know if you can see that there. It's going to be pretty small, but yeah, hopefully you'll be able to see that. So please go and check it out now. I don't think there were any other questions about this just yet, but yeah, I'd love to get all you guys' feedback on that. As you know, I really love this stuff. I think it's fantastic. I love having all the screens around here. I'll just sit and watch them for ages. Just please do remember that the feeds and stuff that I've got here are just a beginning. I'd really like to get a lot more interesting kinds of feeds. The stuff on the space weather one, for example, these are all just static images at this stage. There's no animation or anything like that. There are things like, see, these two feeds here. In my old system with OBS, I actually used a chroma key and overlaid them. So you've got the land temperature and the ocean temperature all on the same one. I haven't yet figured out how to do that in using the HTML, but there'll be a way. I'll just have to figure it out. Tristan, if you've got any ideas, I'm suspecting that might have to be a server-side one. Pretty sure it will actually, but I haven't really looked into that yet. Anyway, I'm babbling and I'm digressing. I just want to make the point that this is very, very early days. We're just concerned about the basic functionality and whether there's any real market out there for this. I imagine that there would be some. I'm actually really thinking that this would be a cool thing to be able to have. I'm imagining for schools, if you've got a space module going and the teacher wanted to set up something like this in a school setting. I would really love for other space museums around the world to use the system. That'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? So I'm trying to set it up. Well, it is being set up like that. I'm setting it up to use it on multiple screens all around here. So it'd be really awesome if I could get some others on board with this. Anyway, I have... right, so WW2 person is saying it's got a /after monitor as well. You shouldn't... It does, but you shouldn't need to do that. That last trailing slash should just come up automatically. I'm just going to double check that myself. So you should just be able to type in /monitor, and then once you go there, the server actually automatically adds the trailing slash. But thanks for pointing that out, the WW2 person. Is there WW2? Is that like a second level domain name, or where did that come from? Or is it just World War II? I'm picking it's probably the latter, but it's actually a common subdomain as well, is what I was thinking of, subdomain. Right, anyway, it's almost 10 to 8 already. Right, if anyone else has got anything they want to pitch in with, now is the time. I'm thinking, right?
Oh,
go ahead. This is my mum, everyone. Hang on, where are you? I've lost you. Here you are. Go ahead.
I'm here. It's probably a very simple question. On Enceladus, what's the liquid ocean? Is it water?
That is a good question. Water, yes, but is it just water? Well, no, it won't be just water. There'll be other stuff, but that's a great question. If anyone wants to very quickly Google it and get back to us, I'm not sure what the current thinking is with the makeup. My understanding is that it is basically water. It'd have to be, wouldn't it? It would have to be almost...
Wouldn't it be methane? Because that's what's been found in a lot of other oceans in our solar system. So it would be my guess.
Okay, thank you for that, Blake. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm leading on from what Blake was saying. Years ago, I read an article, and I can't remember who it was from. It might have been someone like Asimov, pointing out that we tend to obsess with the thought we need to find water to find life. But that's limited thinking. And this article had been looking at exploring other life forms, not necessarily carbon-based, that don't need water, whose blood has not got a whole lot of iron in it. I'd love to be able to find that article again, but I can't remember who wrote it. Maybe if I Googled something like, does life need water to exist in our galaxy? Do you know anything, or is that an article by someone like Asimov? Does that ring a bell with you at all?
Not specifically that article, but it is a great point. I'm just trying to think. There was something, it's probably a few years ago now. It's just escaped me, where that whole question of do we need to be looking for water, where did it come up? Was it? No, it's going to really annoy me, that one. But there was some investigation that was going on. Oh, no, it was back here on Earth. It was that question of there was a lake on Earth. Who can remind me about what this was about? Where they were suggesting that they had found some kind of life that did not require all the normal ingredients that we were thinking of. And it was a controversy that went on for ages. I wish I could remember more about it. Anyway, but it is a really good point, isn't it? Like, water seems to make sense. It's a good solution to be building life in, but you did right. It's not the only one. There are certainly other ways that life could evolve, and basically all you need is some kind of medium that things can move around in. Like if everything's just solid, you're never going to get life, as far as I understand it, because things do have to interact and mix in before you can get anything happening. I believe you need some kind of temperature gradient. If there's any biologists out there that can comment more about this, let me know. But I believe you need some sort of temperature gradient to get things mixing and happening. But certainly we don't want to be limited to just water, just carbon-based life. Silicon's another one, isn't it, that they look at, I think, a lot. There was an old Star Trek episode about that, wasn't there? In the original series, there was a whole episode about finding a life form that was not carbon-based. That's about all I can think of for that now. Casey, it's a salty brine. Thank you, Casey. So he's telling us that, so basically mostly water, then we would assume from that. But we're talking about Enceladus there. Casey's telling us it is a salty brine. Nice. Thanks for that, Casey. Righty. Tristan said that it's a much better solution than OBS for home. Yep. Means can run on a Raspberry Pi for the kids. That's a good point too. Thank you for that. Yeah, that is a good point, actually. So look, what I'll keep doing is I'll keep trying and develop this system as much as I can using just a web-based approach. So it's all just HTML and stuff. So anyone with any reasonable web browser could view it. And it doesn't really require much else. There's no plugins or anything involved other than just, your standard browser video viewer and stuff. So yeah, I'll keep going with that. It's always going to be a bit more limited. The OBS Studio does have a lot more options, and it's much more configurable. It means that you at home would be able to change things and do a lot more different things. You add your own stuff. But I'll try as much as I can to make it using this new system and just see how far we can get with it. If that's not going to cut it for the power users, then we'll look at using the OBS as well. So what I'm doing here at the Space Center is actually about half of it at the moment is using that new web-based system, and I'm using that on older computers. The other half is still using the OBS Studio. Right, Casey's saying, wasn't that a lake under the ice in Antarctica? It could have been. I honestly can't remember. I was thinking it was somewhere else, but...
That's what I found. I just Googled methane ocean, and it was all articles about Arctic or Antarctica and methane and stuff.
Okay. Oh, cool. Thanks for looking that up, Blake. Okay, looks like we might be onto something there. Cheers. Okay then. Look, it's actually, it's 8 o'clock already. Did anyone get to see the space station? Let's just go back and have a look. I'll go back to my system and see if I can remember how to use it. We need to go back to the ISS and see where it is now. It's presumably, it's actually right. Oh, no, it's well past now. So certainly well and truly gone. Oh, look, we did get the feeds back. I was actually hoping that we might be able to have a look at the feed on the top right there as it went over New Zealand. For those of you who have been following this, the old feed that we used to have would not show anything on the Earth at all at nighttime. But I've noticed that this new one will actually kind of show you cities at nighttime with the light. So obviously the exposure is set a bit differently. It's not great. But I have actually seen it go over New Zealand a couple of times at night time, and you actually do get to see, I think I saw Wellington one time as it was going over. You could just make out the city lights, which was nice. That's something that we have not been able to see before on those feeds.
We tried to have a look at it just a few minutes ago, when about 7:40, whatever it was. It's too cloudy here, and you're only about 200 meters from where we live, so...
so you missed it too.
You wouldn't be able to see it. Too cloudy.
Okay. Oh, well, thanks for that. I feel a bit better about that now. So, at least here, we wouldn't have got to have seen it anyway. So thanks for that. For those of you who don't know my mum and dad, that's my mum and dad who were just chatting there. Okay. So I think that's just about all I've got to say for tonight. Maybe I will just finish off with one last thing. A few of you had sent me messages wishing me happy birthday during the week. I wasn't going to tell anyone. Mum actually asked if she could tell everyone that it was my birthday last week, but I wouldn't let her. But I did get some really cool stuff, including this top. from the kids and a couple of other things. And I got myself a nice new bomber jacket. Check this out. I've seen these around for ages. It's pretty awesome. It's got all the patches from all the Apollo missions on the back. This is the real deal. It's actually a replica. It's from the company that makes the official bomber jackets for the astronauts and everything that they wear on Earth. It's pretty spectacular stuff. It's reversible. So if you crash your spaceship somewhere or your plane and you need to get rescued, you reverse it and you've got the red on the outside. It's got all the really cool functional stuff, like, the little thing in the sleeves and everything. It's a pretty cool bomber jacket. I remember I used to see people that would wear these things around, and I used to think to myself, wow, that's pretty top-end dorkiness wearing a jacket like that, isn't it? How much of a nerd would you have to be to wear a jacket like this? Well, now I know this much. You've got to be this much of a nerd to wear a jacket. And I've barely taken it off since. And I have to tell you, wearing a jacket like this out in public is a very bold statement. You really, you're putting yourself out there when you wear that out. But I just love it. Thanks, Ange and kids. I just absolutely love my jacket and I have barely taken it off. Okay, look, thanks everyone. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining. Hopefully we will see you again next week. As I keep saying, things have got to be flexible, but just keep an eye on the YouTube channel and just to sort of check there as to when we're going to do it. Sorry, if there's anything else, Blake, hang on to it, and hopefully we'll get back to your questions. Loved your questions. Thank you so much for that. And I hope your project is going very well. I might ask you about that, about whether we're allowed to talk about it or not. But anyway, we'll leave it at that for now. Thanks, everyone. That's all from me. Thanks, everyone, for joining the Zoom meeting and stuff. And we will catch you all again next time. See you, everyone.